So Madison, considering like people kind of like go into your past social media, especially nowadays, and they just try to look for ways. But we're living in sort of like the cancel culture now, right? What possesses somebody like you to actually want to go into politics and just put yourself out there? Because I mean, people ask me all the time, why don't you run for something? And I go, I don't want to I don't want to put anybody through that. I don't want to go through all this. Well, I mean, you haven't even been elected yet, and you seem like a standout guy and a compelling story, and yet people are still attacking you. What made you really want to do this?
They can't stand on their ideas, so they're just going to attack us, whether it's physically or verbally, or they're just going to try and slander us. And so I think this cancel culture, as you mentioned, has come from a place of, they think that the ends justify the means in every situation. And so they will do anything to destroy somebody. And I'll tell you, it's the reason why a lot of good people don't run for Congress.
No, it's absolutely the reason. Right? So after you won the Republican primary just in the last couple months, the personal attacks against you really started. And it's funny because I'm Googling things, trying to do some research on you, and I'm texting Lance like, what is this story about? And so I see that one of them really stood out to me to be absolutely a crazy attack, and I think people have really dismissed it. Even CNN, I think, has dismissed it. But and this was that back in 2017, you visited the Eagle's Nest, and for those who aren't familiar with the Eagle's Nest, this is sort of a vacation home. I like to call it sort of like the Camp David for Adolf Hitler. By the way, Madison, when I was looking this up, I saw you visited there in July of 2017. A friend of mine and myself actually went in August of 2017, so we just missed you. But anyway, I looked, and you had these pictures in that tunnel, that creepy kind of tunnel going in there that you take the elevator up. And I have an exact same picture right there. In fact, I sent it to Lance and said, I've got the same picture. And so, this is such an important site, but it's a beautiful place, right? It's situated on the, the German Alps, I think, or Austrian Alps, whatever.
It's on the German side, I believe, looking over Austria.
Yeah, and I got to it from, we were in the town of Salzburg, Austria, and we went up the mountain, and everything. And there's, tourist buses going up every 20 minutes. And but it's a really beautiful place, and the Allies, we never bombed it, right? But you can actually still, everything is totally preserved, and it's it's kind of great. But anyway, people saw your photos, and I guess some political opponents, and I don't even know if it was like your actual opponent or just like people who don't want to see you succeed, but they went through your Instagram and said, oh, here's the guy saying or visiting a sort of a Hitler site, and they're calling you basically a Nazi or Nazi sympathizer because you went to this historic site.
Obviously, my dad was in the Marines, like I stated, and so very pro-military family. And so obviously, one of my favorite periods of American history is when in the 1940s, when we went into the World War. I mean, it's probably one of the most consequential periods of all of history.
Yeah.
And what really was stunning to me is at the end of Band of Brothers. If you watch Band of Brothers, it's the HBO documentary series. It's incredible. Well done. When you watch that, the actual company they follow, Easy Company, the end of that series ends with them actually going there and occupying the area that is the Eagle's Nest. Because, like you said, it's a lot like our Camp David. It was a place that was their emergency government site. All the people could go there, and the Nazi government would be able to run the entire country from there. And then, so that was the Easy Company's last target. They went there, they conquered it, and then they go through, and that big tunnel that you're talking about, it was apparently filled with nothing but like vintage, extremely vintage wine bottles.
Wow,
and so our boys got to get in there. They went up the elevator. There's a great iconic picture of them, with the classic cigar. Yeah. Easy Company's all just sitting there smoking cigars, and it was at the end of the European theater, and it was incredible. And so anyways, there is an actual tour, a Band of Brothers tour, that ends at the Eagle's Nest. And it was an incredible place to get to go to see where we conquered that extreme evil that happened. And, like you were saying, the Anti-Defamation League, which leans a little bit left, and even the CNN just dismisses it as absolutely crazy because, 120,000 people go visit this a year. There's a restaurant on the top. It's people go there to a lot of Jews actually go there to really revel in the defeat of Nazism.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's like here was, and I think you had something in your post about here was where the supreme evil type that we could never think of anything more evil. Here's where they were conspiring and everything, and yet now we're able to go there and sort of enjoy the moment when they're not there.
And I really went there as just a middle finger to Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
I mean, let me tell you, a man who's going there speaking English with his brother, who is a man in a wheelchair, a man that the Nazis would have targeted to kill, is now going there and just enjoying my time. Right. I think that's just saying not only did we defeat you, but we truly defeated you. Almost an entire century later, we're reveling where you used to.
So Madison, considering like people kind of like go into your past social media, especially nowadays, and they just try to look for ways. But we're living in sort of like the cancel culture now, right? What possesses somebody like you to actually want to go into politics and just put yourself out there? Because I mean, people ask me all the time, why don't you run for something? I go, I don't want to put anybody through that. I don't want to go through all this. Well, I mean, you haven't even been elected yet, and you seem like a standout guy and a compelling story, and yet people are still attacking you. What made you really want to do this?
And one night I'm sitting outside with my dog, and I'm just kind of thinking about what we said, and I'm thinking, wow, is this a culture I want to raise my child in? And because, I grew up in a very suburban area, very conservative area, so almost all the places I went to, you would hear the same thing from the parents as they were watching the news, like, oh, it's such a bad culture you guys are being raised in, I wish we could do something to it. But all they ever did was complain about it. They never really stood up to actually do something to fix the problem. And, like I said earlier, I'm a pretty decisive person. And so when I was realized we were faced with this problem in our country of a negative culture, of our country moving in the wrong direction, and when I realized that, wow, the political establishments are failing us on both sides. And this gets back to that point where, people would say, well, don't you want to be older? Don't you want to wait in line? And unfortunately, we do not have time to wait. Our country is on the precipice of becoming something totally different. You see that I believe, I don't even want to say I don't want to say one political party. There are neo-Marxists that have taken over a lot of the political narrative, and they're trying to radically change our country. You see the mob violence that's going on in our country, and I would love to tell you that, that mob violence is being sensationalized by the news to sell more media copies. But I was leaving the RNC just this past weekend. We snuck out the back because we didn't want to get hit really hard by the crowd. But as we were going through kind of this mob crowd, they were all out there to desecrate everything that they could, and they were very far away from the RNC because the Secret Service was holding them back pretty far. But as we went out there, a few people recognized me, and they were spitting at us. They were yelling at us. It was just, I'm a man in a wheelchair. You're in your same generation trying to actually change the country for good, and you're going to attack me in this way. I mean, Rand Paul was actually assaulted. Right. And the fact that our political system has gotten to this point, you even have Maxine Waters, 9 months ago, actually advocating for, get in their face, don't let them be welcome anywhere. This is what you see as this Marxist revolution comes up. They can't stand on their ideas, so they're just going to attack us, whether it's physically or verbally, or they're just going to try and slander us. And so I think this cancel culture, as you mentioned, has come from a place of, they think that the ends justify the means in every situation. And so they will do anything to destroy somebody. And I'll tell you, it's the reason why a lot of good people don't run for Congress.
No, it's absolutely the reason.